Okay, now, I truly believe that's important to put a system together with your stage or with your rehabbing. A system. Now, I'm pretty sure that if Charles knew what he knows now, he would have probably approached his system differently. Is that a fair statement? You probably would have ran in the other direction? Well, that in and of itself is probably a system. But planning and pre-ordering of materials. So let me ask you this, Charles. If you're going to do the duplex across the street now, are you going to approach things differently? Okay. So planning and pre-order of materials, having an idea of what that is. Steve, bless you. It's not.
He had me drive him by 12 units, absolute basket case. Worse than that, I'm going, what are you doing?
Yeah, he's addicted now.
And it had a fire and it was all big fencing and it looked like some old prison. And he's like, yeah, you're right, my brother's also doing the same thing. It's just a momentary.
Okay, I got you. When rehabbing, if you can get into the property early, you should do so. Now, there's a little bit of a risk there. Now, this is prior to close. A little bit of a risk there because if something happens where you don't close, then you've just invested some time and money. But it's a great way to get a head start on the project. Maybe at the very least, just the demo portion of it. Okay? Yes?
I do something special with insurance. My broker in Canada said just double up. There's no clear cut line.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that here in a moment, but insurance is important for you to get for construction insurance and things like that, especially when you're in a neighborhood that might be a little bit challenging. If you have tools walk off the site or...
When you went early like that, though, or with construction insurance,
Yeah. To insure the property, you've got to make sure that you have an ownership in it. However, the thing you need to be talking to your insurance agent on, and they don't understand this as well, you have an equitable interest in that property. They need to make sure that they understand that. And typically, because you have an equitable interest, that's what you're trying to insure. So make sure you bring that up, okay? Because at the surface, they'll say, well, how can we insure it? You don't own it. I don't own it, but I have an equitable interest in it, and I'm trying to insure my interest. How much would that cost? Okay? Good question, though. Start the marketing right away. Now, some people disagree with me with this. Some people might say, well, why would you want to market a property that you have unfinished? Like Charles. His property is unfinished. Or like Kevin's from yesterday. His property was unfinished, but the painters were in there. And I think of that as two ways. When you got demand in a market that's increasing, and higher demand, I think you should go ahead and market the property before it's done. However, I would like you, to the best of your ability, come up with before and after pictures. Or at least have maybe a notebook or something on site that has shown other projects that you've done before and after. And I'm hoping, Charles, you've been taking pictures along the way. Here. Have you? Yes, I have, John. No, you wouldn't scare them away. Before and after. Did you see the before and after that I showed you of the kitchen? Did you see everybody? Oh, the dramatic effect? You want to show that not only for the people buying, but for future investors, for future partners. You want to show and make sure you're highlighting your experience of what you're doing. But back to marketing the property. When you're in a market in which the demand is high and the supply is low, I think you should market early. When you're in a market where the supply is high and the demand is low, I think you should market right at the end. Okay? But when you got high demand, market early. When you got low demand, market late. Does that make sense? Okay? When we talk about bidding the job, now, I want to make sure that everybody got this from earlier when we were talking about an inspector. I think you should get at least 3 bids on work. I didn't say that you should hire 3 inspectors to do the job. I think you should get 3 bids on all work that you're doing. And that's something that Heather does quite often in our business. And you'd be surprised how different the bids are. They're different in quality, they're different in price, and they're different in time frame. A couple things with bids I want to mention. The cheapest price isn't always the best price. The cheapest price isn't always the best price. Not only get 3 bids, but get references with those bids and check out their work. But also on rehabbing, make sure whatever contract you're going to get into with these contractors, make sure there's a time component with their work. Because a lot of times contractors can hold up the job. And a job like Charles, with what I see there, the longer that stays empty, the clock is ticking. And I know he knows that. I'm not trying to put pressure on you, my friend. But the clock is ticking. Every day that goes by, it gets more pressure, more pressure, more pressure. So by bidding out that job, having that time component to it, I would say, something like this on all our bids. In other words, somebody's going to come in and do, as a general contractor, take out a wall, do the drywall, put in the lights, and do plumbing work. And I would say something like this. If your job isn't done by, I'm just pulling these out, February 15th, there's a discount that happens every day after the 15th. Okay? Put in a monetary penalty that they're going to receive if they don't get their job done on time, unless it's an act of God or something else that's stopping that. Does that make sense to everybody? The other thing, do not, what's that? Do you know how many workers are unemployed today that you can do that? You should be doing that on every single one. Ask Heather. She put in, we're hiring a maintenance person right now in Chicago and in Charlotte. And our maintenance person ad in Craigslist, I'm not kidding you, she got like 100 people responding to that. People are out of work, companies are out of business. Put a time component in there. There should have no problem nobody's too busy to get your job done by a certain date, okay? That's the other thing. Let me talk about deposits and money. Do not give a huge deposit, 50%, 75%, or pay the whole job in advance. Never do that. That should go without saying. You wouldn't believe how many people, well, I gave them 80% or 100% of the job. I prepaid it thinking they'd get the job done quicker. Well, not only did they not get the job done, but they didn't get their money back either. So, I told you yesterday about the contractor in Atlanta when he told me about the Big Mac effect. That was very, very cool. He said, if you give me money and I get hit by a Mack truck, there goes your money and there goes the job. So why don't I do the work, you inspect it at the end, and then you pay me? I thought that was really fair. You know why that's happening today? Because so many people are out of work and they want to separate themselves from everybody else out there. So I thought that was really fair. The reason I'm mentioning this unemployment scenario is take advantage of it now. But there's some things, again, that the cheapest price isn't always the best. Check references. Check the quality of work. Check their safety. Make sure they're going to be safe about it.
Well, when I worked as an insurance adjuster, that was what we were always taught, to take 3 estimates, and you're going to compare them and see, well, how long does this guy think it's going to take compared to this one, and then, what was forgotten on this estimate, or might be charged as an extra on another one, and especially when you're not there, it can certainly give you a different picture.
Right.
Give you a bigger picture.
Here's how I'd like to see the materials run as well. If they're saying, hey, I'd like a down payment for the materials, try to structure it in this way. Why don't we do this? I'd like you to go to Home Depot or wherever it is that you go, you buy the materials. That day, I will pay you, if you send me a receipt for those materials, I will pay you that day for those materials. Rather than send money out, have them shop for the materials and it be lower than what they quoted, they keep the balance of the money. That's how ultimately I'd like to have you set that up if you can, if they'll agree to that. Sometimes you will have to put a little bit of money down for that reason, for buying materials, but never prepay labor. It's okay to prepay materials or pay for materials as soon as they're bought, but don't prepay labor. Okay? Yes.
So, for example, in Canada, usually materials plus 15%. Is it the same in the States, or usually you just pay what they pay and they'll pay?
Yeah, usually they're not marking up the materials. I have heard of cases where they do that. So that's going to be in your bid comparison. Who does what? Sometimes they'll actually show you on their bid their profit that they're making. That's nice to know too. It just depends on their business practice, what that is. Okay. Anybody else?
When
Yeah.
you have a time restriction and they're getting close to it, do you find they kind of just half-ass it, get it done so they don't get burned?
If they're a quality contractor, no. Typically, they won't do that. I want somebody that's going to take pride in their work. Typically, they're not just going to, as you say, half-ass it at the back end of the job like that. So if they're a quality contractor, you've proven that by the references that they've given you, I think you'll avoid that.
Also,
Okay.
probably if you let them know that this is just one of many opportunities for them too, they're going to
Just-
continue the quality so that you keep getting back.
Just like Penny's saying, just like you're telling the agent, hey, this is just one of many opportunities. Same thing with your contractors. Yes? Yes, you can have a bid log that you can use with each one. A lot of times they're going to use their own estimate, however. But it's nice if you use something like that where you can compare all three of them. That's a great idea.